Good evening everyone, and welcome to another Queensland Severe Weather Chasers Network cyclone video update tonight, the 23rd of March 2018. My name is Nathan Donnelly, and tonight we are talking about Tropical Cyclone Nora. So firstly, let's have a look at the Bureau of Meteorology's forecast track map for this system, and we can see that it started here yesterday at 10 AM just off the north coast there of the Northern Territory. It then started heading west, and then it started coming east, and at 1 PM this afternoon it was a Category 2 system just off Cape Wessel and heading in this southeast to east-southeast direction, and heading down here into the Gulf, and at 1 AM tomorrow morning expect to be a Category 3 system. Then by 1 PM tomorrow afternoon, still a Category 3 system, sitting in there in the middle of the Gulf between Weipa and Newlumbai. And then by 1 AM Sunday morning expected to be a Category 4 system sitting off Cape Kerwin. Then at 1 PM Sunday afternoon, still expected to be a Category 4 system, but now sitting off the coastline of Pormpuraae. And then it really sort of slows itself down as it starts to de-intensify. A Category 3 system by Monday morning, 1 AM, sitting off Kawanama, and then ever so slowly moving towards that south to southeast direction, and 1 PM Monday afternoon expected to still be a Category 3 system and just sitting to the southwest of Kawanama off the coastline there. So that's where the Bureau are predicting that this system will go. Having a look now at where the rainfall is going to fall with this system, and tomorrow we can see that the bulk of the rainfall is going to be up here just north of Weipa, and perhaps even hitting Weipa, and just to the south there Weipa are expecting between 150 to 200 millimeters. Weipa itself expecting between 100 to 150 millimeters of rain. Then on Sunday we see that the bulk of the rainfall then heads south with the system, now sitting just off the coastline of Burketown, but on the coastline could be expecting about 100 to 150 millimeters of rain. We also have this little patch of rain over here near Cooktown and Palmerville also hitting the coastline. They're expecting 200 to 300 millimeters of rain on Sunday. So quite a big rain event happening there for these guys as well. Then we look into Monday, and we can see that the bulk of the rainfall has now hit the coastline over Burketown, now expecting around 300 to 400 millimeters of rain, and outside Burketown expecting the 200 to 300 millimeters of rain. So quite a lot of rainfall associated with this system. Looking now at the satellite imagery for the system, Tropical Cyclone Nora, and if we press play here we can see that Thursday evening it was hovering around here off the Northern Territory coastline, and then into today it's still just swirling around in that area, but it's ever so slightly moving towards the east, and we can see some really red color in the system, meaning some very intense convection and strong and tall thunderclouds and storms in this system. So it's starting to really ramp up at the moment. If we look now at the sea surface temperatures for this system, and they are still quite warm here where this system is. You can just make out the little whirly symbols here showing you where the forecasted track map is for Tropical Cyclone Nora, and you can see that it has no trouble whatsoever with sea surface temperatures. It's warm waters all the way through to the coastline. If we look at the relative humidity associated with this system, and we've got some very, very nice, moist, humid air here around the system at the moment, but we can also see to its western side we've got some relatively dry air coming through, trying to really wrap itself around this system. But at this stage, this is at 8 o'clock this evening, the system in some nice, really moist type air. Let's look through till Saturday morning, and as we do, we can see that that dry air is starting to wrap itself around the system. At this stage, the Nora is forecasted to be around just to the northeast of the Northern Territory coastline, or maybe even further into the Gulf. And it's still dragging all this moist air coming in here from the north, but this drier air is starting to wrap itself around the system. If we look now through to Saturday afternoon, and as we do, we can see that the system's still dragging a lot of this moisture here from the north, and but this drier air is coming in around the system and starting to try and choke this system, which means that its life expectancy may not be very long. By this time though, the system is meant to be intensifying into a category 4, so this dry air here is not really playing a huge part in this system at this stage. If we look through until Sunday morning, and here at 8 AM Sunday morning, we can see that the moisture or the moist air associated with this system is right here on the coastline, and the drier air is now starting to really it's on pretty much every side of the system except for its eastern side, and to an extent its southern side as well, but the system is still able to tap into this nice moist air that's coming here from the Coral Sea and from the tropics up there near Port Moresby and those places there. Now if we look into Sunday afternoon, sorry, get my times right, and by Sunday afternoon at 5 PM or 8 PM, the system right here on the coastline, and the dry air here is starting to really wrap itself around. If we have a look a bit further, we can see that it's on its northern, its western, it's to an extent its southern, and starting to come through to its eastern side, but the system is still able to have this moist air flowing in from its, well, now it's eastern side. It was coming from the north side, but it seems to now be drawing its moisture more from an easterly direction into the system. Okay, let's now have a look at where the models are saying that this cyclone is going to go over the next 48 to 72 hours, and we can see here at 8 PM Friday evening the cyclone here off the coastline of the Northern Territory, and it has got quite a nice strong wind field around the whole system there, so really is starting to pack a punch. But at the moment not really affecting a whole lot of coastline, maybe here just off the tip of Arnhem Land perhaps, but for the most of the system not really impacting many people so far. Let's look now to Saturday morning, and as we do, we can see the system starting to adopt this south to southeasterly motion, and here at 11 AM on Saturday morning, the system right in the middle of the Gulf, and really nice environment for it to be in at the moment, having winds around its center of 60 plus knots, and the coastlines around Weipa and Arukan and places like that, possibly experiencing around 23 to 35 knot winds. So the system starting to make its presence known on the western side of the Cape York Peninsula. Into Saturday evening, and we can see the system continues to develop this south to possibly southeasterly motion. We come back one here, 8 o'clock on Saturday evening. The system right here, just off the coastline of Mornington Island, probably around the Arukan, or maybe just southwest of Arukan, but still well off shore. Well, the centre of the system is well offshore, but onshore we could be getting winds now of between 28 to 40 knots. We will have a bit more of an in-depth look at what the winds are going to be a little bit later on when we have a look at Windy TV. But pretty much all this coastline from around the Arukan right through to near the South Northern Territory Queensland border, expecting these 23 to 35 knot winds. Looking now to Sunday morning, and at 8 a.m. Sunday morning, the centre of the system is set to be just off the coastline of Mornington Island. Now, Mornington Island itself could be experiencing 50 to 60 plus knot winds, so not a very good time for these guys on Sunday morning. The coastline, the Gulf Country coastline around Burketown, and also just around Burketown, from what I can see, expected to be feeling around the 35 to 45 knot winds on Sunday morning. Sunday afternoon, and the system decides to just get ever so closer to the coastline, but doesn't really move a whole lot. So it's not in a hurry to go either direction. It just seems to slowly move itself onto the coastline. And now the coastline are expecting these 50 to 60 plus knot winds. Burketown, which yesterday was set to have pretty much a direct hit, the centre of the system to have a direct hit, may be dodging a bullet at the moment. The winds are still going to be quite strong, but the centre of the system may have moved west. But we'll have a look Monday morning, and we see the cyclone, it starts heading kind of, well, what looked like it was heading back towards the east, but Monday morning at 8 a.m. and the system is just sitting off the coastline there near Mornington Island, and hasn't hit the coastline just yet, but it seems to be de-intensifying because of its interaction with the land. So it's certainly making its presence known there. If we look into Monday evening, and the system just sits there near Mornington Island ever so slowly going east, and then it hits the coastline here at about 2 a.m. Tuesday morning. Is the expected landfall of this system, and it looks like it's going to be quite east of Burketown. So Burketown, as I said, may have dodged a bit of a bullet here with Tropical Cyclone Nora. If we now have a look at the Joint Typhoon Warning Centre, which comes from the Americans, and we can see that they are predicting pretty much what the Bureau of Meteorology were predicting for this system. So starting out here, this is for today, then heading in that south to southeasterly direction, and then as it comes into the Gulf, then takes more of a southerly direction before it then starts heading southwest just as it hits the coastline there near Mornington Island. Looking at this stage at the moment, that Mornington Island could be pretty much the where most of the action is going to happen, according to the Joint Typhoon Warning Centre. And you can also see this large area for margin, so this system could possibly move as far east as between Cairns and the west coast of Cape York, or it could move as far west right over here to the Northern Territory Western Australian state border. So we can also see with this model the wind fields for this system, and as it gets here to in the middle of the Gulf of Carpentaria, we can see that the winds of this system are pretty much hitting the coastline, the western coastline of the Cape York Peninsula, and it pretty much stays that way until the system hits land, and you can see the wind field there after it hits the land. Having a look now at the GEFS models, and just seeing where the majority of these models say that Nora is going to go, and we can see that much like the European models have been saying, it's going to head in this easterly direction or southeasterly direction, then head a bit more to the southeast, and continue that track right down through along the western coastline of the Cape York Peninsula. Then it will adopt this direct southerly push as it comes in there towards Mornington Island, and then hitting just in that corner region there between Burketown and the Cape's coastline there. From there, it's expected to take a little shift off the coastline, but then continue in this westerly or west-southwest motion into the Northern Territory. Just now having a look at windy.com to see where these winds are at the moment with this system, and currently at 9 p.m. on Friday evening, we've got 40-knot winds around the outside of the system, and to its eastern side we've got those 35-knot winds, but at the moment coastline is only feeling about the 13-knot winds at this stage. It's into Saturday morning at 6 a.m. and we see that the system's going in that southeasterly direction, just like the models have predicted, and those winds around the centre now at 50 knots to its south, 41 to its north, and 47 knots to its east. The coastline now, right on the exposed coastlines, are now feeling 25-knot winds from this system. Now, if we look through to Saturday afternoon, and here we are, we're just coming back just a little bit. Okay, we go 2 p.m. and by this time the system is directly west of Arunican, and its wind speeds now 49 knots to its south, 51 to its north, and 48 to its east, and the winds right on the exposed coastline there, 20-knot winds. So the winds starting to pick up there on that western side of Cape York Peninsula. We're looking through to Sunday and we can see that the system is adopting that south to southeast track, and at 2 a.m. We see that the winds to its south are 56-knot winds, to its north 51, and to its east we've got 62-knot winds, which is quite strong. Right on the exposed coastline of the western coastline of the Cape York Peninsula, 37 knot winds from this system. So although that area is sparsely populated, if you do happen to be in that area, then it's going to get quite hairy there. Let's look now to Sunday afternoon, and as we do, we can see the system has started to adopt that direct southerly movement, and its wind speeds now around its centre 65 to its north. We've got 30, so we'll go 34 to its north, so not as strong as what it was before. 49 knots to its east. On the coastline, so around the Karumba, we've got 23 knot winds. Burketown, they're expecting 32 knots. But Mornington Island, where a lot of the action is set to be taking place from this system, at this stage is a 55 knot winds. Now, because it's sort of on its western edge, a lot of the winds from this direction would be coming off the landmass and hitting that island. There is a chance for the wind to pick up a bit of moisture, but not as much as if the island was on its eastern side. So we'll have a look at the rain for this time period, and we can see 56 millimeters of rain expected just on that exposed parts of Mornington Island. So although it is still quite a decent amount of rain, it's probably not as much as what you might have gotten if, say, you were a bit further or closer to the centre. 81 millimeters of rain there, and on its eastern side 48 millimeters. So still quite a good decent amount of rain, but it could have been worse if they were situated a little bit closer to the centre of the system. Let's look into Monday morning now, and we can see that the system adopts a little bit of a westerly track, then comes back to the east. So it's doing a bit of a do-si-doing here with the coastline, all the while just barreling the Mornington Island and the Gulf coastline with these 62 knot winds. We've got 55, but if we go a little bit further, 55 to its southern part, and we've got 56 there to its eastern part. The coastline right on the edge of it, so the really exposed parts of the coastline, they're expecting 36 knot winds here on the Monday morning at 8 a.m. For our rainfall at this time, we can see that most of it is still offshore, but some of it is starting to hit, so 14.1 millimeters there of rain on Monday morning. Looking back now, or looking into Monday afternoon, we can see the system does this really tight squeeze. Let's just go back here for Monday afternoon. And we can see that the system is still sitting there off the coastline, just to the northwest of Karumba, and those winds are still in the 55 knot range, so still quite strong. Into Tuesday morning, and the system just sits there in the Gulf, just off the coastline there, not really going a whole lot of places, just continuing with the rainfall and with the wind strength. Now just to the south or the southeast of Mornington Island, we can see 58 knot winds happening there. Just to the north of Burketown, 40 knot winds. Karumba, they're just out of that stronger wind field, and they're expecting about 31 knot winds. The rainfall is starting to hit the coastline at this stage, just north there of Burketown. So just there, just off the coastline, we've got 64 millimeters of rain. So, and just remember that this area has copped that sort of figures of rain for a couple of days now from these systems, because it's just really refusing to hit the coast and then start its way over towards the Northern Territory. So Tuesday afternoon is when it does start making its move onto the coastline. Here we are at 4 p.m. Tuesday afternoon. The winds now around that Burketown area, 24 knots. The winds around the center of the system at 42 knots, and the rainfall at this stage pretty much has moved with the system and is now on its western side, and in that area of the countryside, 60.3 millimeters of rain. So that's where Windy is saying that this system is going. Thought we'd have a look at Earth Null School right now, just to see what the wind is doing around this system at the moment, and we can certainly see that this system does have a good eye to it, and the winds, yeah, certainly circulating around that system. So we've got these winds here coming from the east or southeast, and we've got these winds here coming from the west or southwest, and just combining and giving this system the ability to have this rotation happening. So that's what the winds are doing with this system at the moment. Well folks, that's all we have time for tonight, so thank you for watching. Our next cyclone video update will be tomorrow evening. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to support our work that we do for you, please do take the time to show your appreciation by donating to us through our PayPal link. So thank you and good night.